So, when the news broke out about this movie, I was very, very hesitant. I thought it was going to be a terrible movie. I didn't like the idea of it at all. And I was just really against it at first. But that makes perfect sense because I grew up with the original. My brother and I used to watch the original all the time growing up. So I was like very hesitant because I was like, how are they going to do all this stuff? How are they going to do Rufus? Rufus is a mole rat, a naked mole rat that Ron had throughout the series. And real naked mole rats are ugly. So I was like, how are they gonna like pull it off without it being ugly? I wasn't sure that CGI was gonna work the greatest for that, and I had my doubts about how they were gonna make Draken blue. Shigo always has her glowing green things that she always uses. So there's a lot of things in the original Kim Possible that I was just doubting that they'd be able to do. But I decided to watch the movie anyway and give it a chance because I was like, well, you never know. It might be better than expected. And I was actually pleasantly surprised when I watched the movie for the first time. It is kind of cheesy. There's a lot of like cheesy parts within it. Like I thought the action of it was really kind of cheesy. I thought they could have done better in that department. It didn't look like I thought they could have made it look better action wise, but you know, it is what it is. But actually, for the most part, I actually enjoyed the movie. That being said, I'm not gonna go out and buy it or anything if they have it like put on DVD or something. I'm not gonna rush out and buy it and be like, oh my gosh, it's on DVD now, good. Because I don't think that it lives up to the original. The original is way better than the live action movie. But the live action movie was good for what it was. They had a lot of callbacks to things in the series. For instance, for a lot of Kim's missions in the movie, for Dr. Draken, she got rides from people around town, just like in the series. So I thought that was kind of neat. And actually, one of her rides was Christy Carlson Romano herself. I thought that was awesome that she came back to be in the live action movie, even if it was just for that small cameo. With the live action movie, I can kind of understand why Christy Carlson Romano would want to come back because they were actually quite true to the original for a lot of stuff. For instance, they had Bueno Nacho in the movie, and it looked exactly like Bueno Nacho in the animated series. They basically replicated it. It looked very similar. They also did a scene in which they did the outside of the school, and that looked very similar to the school in the original series. So they did a lot of things like that to do like a callback to the original series. So I thought that was cool. They also had Kim's brothers, Jim and Tim, in the movie. They weren't really a big part of the movie. They were just in a couple small little scenes. But it was cool that they took the time to actually find twins to play that part. So I thought that was cool. And the characters actually had a lot of their characteristics from the animated series, especially Shigo. I thought Shigo was one of the better ones that they did. I totally envisioned animation Shigo being like, I totally envisioned the person that played Shigo as Shigo. Like, there was no doubt about it. Like, she played her part, and I'm like, oh, that's definitely Shigo. So they definitely did a good job with Shigo having the same characteristics that she did in the animated series. They did a good job with Wade, and I actually am familiar with the kid that plays Wade because he actually plays in Raven's Home, which is a spin-off, or I guess you could call it almost a continuation of That So Raven. And he plays one of Raven's kids, so I'm actually familiar with his acting and how he is. And he actually did an awesome job playing Wade. And the writers gave Wade all the characteristics that he had in the series. Basically, just the kid in his room, like snacking on foods and stuff, and helping Kim out with various missions that she has to do. So I thought that was kind of neat that they stayed true to Wade too. And they stayed true to almost everybody. The one person I thought that they did not stay true to as much was Kim. Kim was kind of a disappointment to me, in all honesty, because throughout the movie they had her doing like cartwheels and flips and everything else just to get around the school and just to do things. Kim Possible in the animated series did not do those things. She was basically just a regular teenage girl and only used her abilities, I guess you could call them, when she fought against the bad guys, and of course she used it in cheerleading. So I thought it was very weird that they made Kim do all this actiony stuff when she wasn't fighting crime, and they just had her doing all this actiony stuff when she was just going to school. Like, who does that? Like, does like all these kinds of like flips and things, when you're just like going to classes and stuff. Like, I didn't get that part of the movie. That part kind of like really disappointed me, to be honest. And it kind of made me disappointed that like they also made Kim like rely on Wade for almost everything, like, cuz the live action movie, without giving any spoilers, focused on Kim's first day of high school, and she basically relied on Wade for almost everything, like where her classes were and everything. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous too, because in the animated series they did talk to Wade a lot, but it was mainly about missions. So I thought it was kind of bad that they made Kim rely on Wade a whole lot more. But maybe I'm just being nitpicky too, because I guess I could see her doing that. And they did make some of that funny, because every time that Kim asked where something was, it was always on the other side of the school. And then, she'd basically like get all upset, like, Of course, it's on the other side of the school. But so I can kind of see why they did that to throw some humor in there, but I don't know. I still don't get it. Um, the other thing I didn't like was Ron did not have Rufus until about halfway through the movie. I thought that was kind of disappointing because in the series he always had Rufus. Rufus was always just there, being Rufus. So I was very disappointed that Rufus was only in half of the movie. I thought they could have had Rufus in there from the very beginning. And they also didn't have Monique in there, Kim's best friend. They did have this new girl, Athena, but I'm not going to spoil what her character was in the movie and how she was involved. But at first, when they introduced her, I thought that was Monique at first, and I was going to say, oh, cool, Monique is in the movie, but nope. So I was sadly disappointed that they didn't have Monique in the movie, but it's something I can get past. And there was this whole thing with Disney saying, this movie isn't for the people that grew up with the Kim Possible animated series. It's for the people of a new generation. And I get that, but I don't think Disney meant that to be mean. Because like I said, there was a lot of things that they put in to this movie that was also in the original. Um, so uh, I think I think they'd be happy to know that some of the original fans did tune in to watch it. Um, and I don't think they wanted to shut us totally out. I think that was maybe a misinterpreted. I don't know if someone saw Disney comment that or how that whole thing started, but I think that was maybe just a misinterpretation because like I said, overall they did stay true to a lot of the things about Kim Possible. So I'm actually really happy about that. But at the same time, this is a movie for the new generation. Um like this movie could almost stand apart from Kim Possible as well, because they added some new things that were never in the original Kim Possible, just how Ron came about getting Rufus, and stuff like that. Uh, so, along those lines, the Kim Possible live action movie does stand on its own, but yet, in a lot of ways, it is true to the original. So I think if you're a fan of the original series, this movie could go either way. You could enjoy it and you could love it, or you could absolutely hate it, or you could just be meh, it was okay, but I'd much prefer the original. That was my feeling about it. It was meh. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Um, I was basically well, it was okay, but the original is way better. Um, so if you grew up with the series like me, you would probably much prefer the original. But I think that fans of the original Kim Possible should definitely check out the movie at least once, just to see how you guys like it. Because like I said, there are some fans that I've been seeing that actually did enjoy the movie quite a lot. Um, and I think it's good to watch at least once, just to see like all the neat stuff they did with um, Bueno Nacho, and when they showed like the whole outside of the school and it basically looked identical to the animated series. Um, I thought parts like that and little Easter eggs like that were really cool. So I was glad I at least checked out the live action movie once. But like I said, I'm not gonna go out and buy it or anything. But yeah, it's definitely a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. Like I said, I thought it was gonna be absolutely like trash, horrible. Like oh my gosh. Uh, but it actually wasn't bad. It surpassed my expectations.